taming the pet. It's understanding that the ego is not to be murdered,
Yeah.
but is just to be trained to poop outside. Do you, you know,
Perfect metaphor.
Hello, and welcome to the Fuck Suffering Podcast. I'm your hostess, Rei Hance, and in addition to hostessing this podcast, I also hold Fuck Suffering practice groups. I do I Ching readings from my book, Oracle of Emergence and Evolutionary I Ching, which is the book that I use for the readings in this podcast. I do them for you, if you like. You can come book that at reihance.com, REIHANCE.com. Oh, this week's episode was so soothing. Our guest's energy is so lovely and balanced and open, and just this was a great chance for me to go to places that I don't often get to go with people, either on this podcast or in my coaching work. So this was a real treat to me to get into the Bodhisattva vows and the ecology of erotic emergence. Oh, I hope you enjoy it. What is our guest's question for the I Ching today? How can I open to miracles?
well, welcome.
Thank you.
What question did you come in with today?
Would you like to hear both of them?
Which
or
one's
just one?
Which one's most alive for you right now?
I think this one. What do I need to know in order to allow myself to fully open to receive the miracles alive in my field?
Wow. So about receptivity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's your intuitive hit about what is standing in the way?
I can feel it. It's hard to articulate.
How's the sense in your body?
It feels like different sizes trying to come together. Like my concept, I feel really distinctly and very clear that my energetic home is living in a miracle field and being that in an embodied way. And I know and see and feel the ways that I put that out into the world. And I also know that the degree to which I'm dilated to receive is not equal. And so the sustainability of that is just a little wobbly. And so my sense is that there is a lack of clear sight and understanding of truly the scope of allowing that's being asked in order to bring things into sustainability. Like I keep hearing like, yeah, no, you're actually imagining too small, which is pretty significant because I imagine things pretty big. And yeah, there's like a mismatched size and I don't know how to see or feel the true size. And then there's a part of me that's like, you don't need to just let yourself open to receive it. But it feels like there's a part of me that wants a justification for it. And there's another part of me that knows it's just ecosystemic reciprocity. So yeah, I think there are different aspects of me who have different ideas about what that means and what it looks like.
Okay, so what's standing in the way?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the focus of that?
Yeah.
What's in the way of your receptivity?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you bring your 3 coins?
I did.
Great. Okay, hold the 3 coins in your hand.
Okay.
And feel the energy of that squeeze. When you say like there's things coming through and there's like different sizes. That's what I heard you say, right? Like that there's different sizes, like so things almost get squeezed out at different volumes and velocities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so feel that squeeze in your hands, like where that clench is in your body, and what the tone, the temperature, the texture, and the tone of that clench is. Just let that fall into your hands, like all of your energy fall out of your head and into your hands. Just feel your question in your hands. As you hold the coins, and let all that energy go into the coins. You're going to gently shake the coins in your hands, and we're going to throw all 3 coins 6 times.
Okay.
And each time you're going to tell me how many heads and how many tails.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready. Okay, so you got hexagram 34, power, into hexagram 32, enduring. Which is interesting in light of your question, because there's no shortage. Like you're saying, you are abiding in a field of miracles. There's no shortage of power there.
Mm-mm.
So let's look at that for a minute. Universal patterns are revealed in your actions. Your moral compass is essential now. Maybe wear it around your neck so you don't lose it. Move from the power of love rather than the love of power. This is a vigorous yes, an affirmation of the growing clarity of your deepest knowing. This is different from an affirmative answer to your question. If you're asking a question that deep down you know is true but don't want it to be, power will often come up. For example, if your question is something like, is my partner cheating? Is this mole malignant? The good news is your intuition is powerful. The bad news is your intuition is powerful. That's just one aspect of this hexagram, but an often overlooked one. More fundamentally, you know who you are. There's nothing to prove, nothing to force. Power is peaceful. Power transmutes and transmits. Power is broad-based, stable, and soft like a jade mountain. Real power requires no performance. Sure, you could swing your dick now, but why squander that energy when you could accomplish the same thing by standing perfectly still? There's lots more beneficial actions available to you and yours. You met retreat beautifully. That's hexagram 33, which is the one that comes into this. Now it is time to advance with the clarity you received during your respite, but not before you're called to. Feel what it's like to have a full tank. Can you resist the arrogant impulse to dominate and control and instead use your power to serve? True power helps others to become more powerful. It doesn't oppress. Having the nervous system capacity to hold power without leaking all over the place and making a mess is the challenge of this hexagram. You have the capacity to sear and the restraint not to. Your life force is running like a spring river. You're swole and throbbing. As Audre Lorde says in Uses of the Erotic, the function of the erotic is to encourage excellence and to give us the strength to pursue it. How do you define excellence? How do you use your strength? No one is asking you to be less selfish, just less self-centered. So your transforming line is line 1. I'm definitely seeing how this is related to your question. So now is not the time to force anything. You might have big plans. Is it just a restless impulse, a quick fix? You have a lot of power now, all the more important to ground. Seal the energetic leaks in your system and resist acting impulsively. True power needs no force. Wait for the next right action to reveal itself. It always does. Have patience. Is it your little animal or your whole human who wants to act now? Tame your pet. Recognize restlessness. Follow what endures. So this moves into hexagram 32, enduring. So I want to come back to your question for a second. What makes you think you need that now?
I think there is everything you just said is very reflective of what I know. And that I'm sitting in this place where all of these things are arriving, and my job is just to let them arrive. And there is this timeless awareness that these things are coming to, it's just really not even held in anything but now. You know what I mean? So it's hard to answer that question because there is no urgency behind it, but there is deep clarity that it's here and yet still coming into form. So I've been holding that on my own for, time not being real, whatever span of measurement. And whenever I ask the question, am I doing anything to stop it? I just don't get any feedback at all. So I guess to answer your question, it feels so deeply now. And also I know that it's not about grasping for it or making it happen, and that what true alignment feels like and is effortless. I'm not, yeah.
How do you know you're not already holding everything that you can hold right now?
Oh, I think I am. It's very paradoxical when you get in there and start digging into it.
So your question is about what's preventing you from receiving, right?
Yeah.
So what if you are receiving all you can hold in this moment?
Well, that tracks.
And like, so it talks in here about your nervous system capacity. Like what takes you out of range?
Not much.
Is there any responsibility that overwhelms you?
No, not in the way my life is currently orchestrated.
So you don't feel any resistance?
Mm-mm.
So is it just about wanting to receive more?
It isn't a wanting. There isn't like a hand out or a forward motion or anything like that. It feels both like my system in relationship to this inquiry feels both balanced and mismatched. And right now I'm wondering and realizing that the balance and mismatch is the paradox of holding each piece as equally true, and really being in that middle space. And I think it's just hard. I'm seeing how the way I've been approaching this question is like it almost is balanced in such a way that it's like being in a room that's perfectly air temperature, where like you can't feel anything because it's just exactly as it is.
So where's the mismatch?
There are certain, I don't want to call them things. There are certain threads of becoming that are I think, coming to sprout all at the same time. And I'm like feeling it as the ground and as the plants and as the ecosystem. And like they haven't quite poked their head out of the dirt yet. And I guess it feels like that. It feels like spring. But it also, well, yeah, now that I think about it like that, it's very clear that it's all coming into being. It's just in the process of coming into being in the way that plants rise out of the ground. So when I hold it not ecosystemically and try to hold it in a more linear way, which isn't really my vibe most of the time, but if I move into that, then it feels mismatched. So that mismatch is actually my linear mind trying to hold something that isn't linear.
Let's read that transforming line again. Now is not the time to force anything. You might have big plans. Is it just a restless impulse, a quick fix? You have a lot of power now, all the more important to ground. Seal the energetic leaks in your system and resist acting impulsively. True power needs no force. Wait for the next right action to reveal itself. It always does. Have patience. Is it your little animal or your whole human who wants to act now? Tame your pet. Recognize restlessness. Follow what endures. So what I'm hearing, it sounds like it's your little animal who's seeing the mismatch, or seeing that things aren't flowing the way that you think they should, that they're flowing through different channels and tributaries of different sizes, and that's exactly right. That the more you ground and shed that sense of impatience and restlessness, and allow that confluence of all those different streams running through you to come together in their own time. Like as the snow melts, as the spring comes, more comes through each tributary. And as they join. And your job is to just focus on sealing the leaks.
Yeah.
Because these two hexagrams are one of a tremendous amount of power. And a tremendous amount of power over time. And clearly you're coming in with that sense, and you have that presence about you. So yeah, learning how to seal the leaks and make sure that nervous system capacity is skillful to almost a pristine level of mastery, where you're able to drop back into your feet at any moment and be able to feel where you're leaking or where you're throwing discomfort at another or making someone else responsible for your reaction. That this moment is about just learning that mastery so that you can be subtly and with subtlety and agility, be incredibly responsive. Does that make sense?
It does.
So now that moves into 32. Enduring. So this is about commitment. Traditionally, it's a marriage hexagram. It's about just like how something moves through time. At the moment of commitment, the myriad things reveal themselves to one another, allowing themselves to be seen. They see themselves in each other, how they're different, how they're the same. They're already changed by one another's presence. And this is an ecological phenomenon as well, like as we emerge from the 10,000 things and are shaped by them. Surrender to this potent alliance. Let the frequency that emerges from this union come through you without losing attunement to your essential tone. This is the center point in the King Wen sequence of the hexagrams, the still point at the center between the poles, the taste of Hieros Gamos, the holy marriage, as within, so without. Hieros Gamos is not just about your union with another, but your capacity to unify and utilize the masculine and feminine energies within you. We're told that masculine energy is the good, productive light that we should all be cultivating, while most of us have injured, depleted, and denied the feminine. We're afraid of the dark, of rest, of mystery. Enduring is where we begin to welcome and embody all of it. We grow responsive and wise when we notice that our next right action emerges from ecology, not our preferences and perceptions. Plow, sow, tend, reap, and fallow. Endure through all phases and cycles of phases. Life is easier when we move at the command of the seasons, their endings, their beginnings. When we honor the causes and conditions of the time, we realize we are not separate, have never been separate. We have only turned away. Set out to do something enduring and do it in an enduring way. Consider your legacy. How will you endure when your body is gone? What are you offering to this union? Is your whole heart on the altar? Have you placed it there with your own two hands? This is the end of courtship and the beginning of marriage. Every ending is a new beginning. Can you let the flutter grow roots? Are you ready to commit to this path, to this work? Are you ready for full devotion? Are you prepared to open when you want to close? Enduring is the long game, the slow unfolding, the sensual nature of devotion, intimacy and desire, differentiation and union, deeply knit and free, a foundation broad and deep enough to endure multiple transformations. Row, row, row your boat gently around the lake, no circuit exactly like the last. Continuous realization, always noticing, always metabolizing. What's your capacity to be nourished by change? All change, not just your preferred changes. For better or for worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, that sort of thing. Now yielding, now firm, now snuggly, now ravenous. A marriage is a dynamic system, a system agile enough to welcome change. This is a skill to be practiced, not a given to be assumed. Stay the course, stay flexible, of course. Know when to make space and when to entwine. Know when to deploy safety and when to step back into the danger of desire. These cycles deepen intimacy. Intimacy cultivated at home and freely expressed in the world endures. The power that emerges from this union is immense. So, coming away from taking that as a literal marriage hexagram, unless that applies to you on some level, it is, it's that initiation. It's that initiation into full power. It's that initiation into that inner Hieros Gamos, where both energies are available to you and you are again, it's about that responsiveness and agility that only comes from energetic mastery, where you grow into responsiveness and away from reactivity. where whichever energy is needed at the moment to respond with the next compassionate action is absolutely available to you, that your system contains all of that and you're aware of that and you're responsible for it. It's a big job.
It is a big job.
So what sorts of actions are coming through for you now?
So I'll just, to contextualize, I much more have spent much of my time immersed in the yin field, more in the feminine energy. I spent a lot of my life pretty incapacitated with chronic pain. So that's no longer where I am, but I learned to learn in deep, deep stillness. And so now I'm bringing that masculine in, which is deeply innate to me, with the masculine, feminine attuned to one another. Mm-hmm. And so what I've been doing lately is letting that inspired action teach me new skills, like learning these instruments, learning music theory, writing stories, building this whole ecosystem of expression and practicing the skills as they arise and really doing nothing in between. My work day to day, I live with my grandma who's 90. So my job really is to be here. So I have a lot of spaciousness to just move as things move. So, I've been learning skills as the feminine energy wants to express itself and needs a certain skill set to express itself through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what this reading is saying. Mm-hmm. So in a way, it's like whatever you're perceiving as resistance is really a product of your own impatience. Mm-hmm. Like everything here is just saying, like, power into enduring. I mean, that's like that's like the whole Bodhisattva toolkit is right there. You know? So it's just that transforming line, the thing connecting these two things is just about recognizing that restlessness. Mm. And that there is actually no impediment right now standing in between you and the field of miracles. It's just
right. Except the idea that there is.
Exactly. It's just the accumulation of causes and conditions is just coming in its own time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
You know, like the 10,000 things are shaping you one moment to the next. Mm-hmm. You are already in the field of miracles. You are already co-creating that. You're already doing the do. So. And the fact that you're also aware of like, okay, this is when this yang energy is being summoned to action. Like that's when I need this to execute this next right action. And and now I can return to replenishment. I mean, if you knew how many people like are terrified of that replenishment, like that in like one of your gifts, then it seems is that having pain for so long and being able to really know that deep dark yin and how replenishing it is and how it's okay to be engulfed by it for a period of time. That is like a gift to share because that is desperately needed right now. That will not kill you. It will actually replenish and renew you if you allow the discomfort.
Yeah.
So I don't know anything about you. So like, but this reading is telling me that you're like, Shazam kapow, like so. what is it that what's your path right now? Where are you on your path?
I mean, I think what we're walking with and naming is about as clear as I can describe the path that I'm on. You know, there's so many threads from so many dimensions, lifetimes, however you want to characterize it, coalescing right now. And I can name so many of the pieces, but the sum is all I know is to become it. And discover what it is to be in the alchemical reality of all of those pieces coming together.
In the cauldron. Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. Do you know the Zen saying, not knowing is most intimate?
I don't, but I like it.
Yeah. Not knowing is most intimate. And that if we can just be with that and feel that sensation of restlessness when it first keeps in, or that desire for something to be different, and just step back from that and have that simple thing be the fundamental offering.
Yeah, I love that. I love not knowing. It's very erotic, you know?
It is. That is the ecology of erotic emergence that we're all being extruded from all the time. But it's like there's such that agility between yin and yang is so essential to really meet that, to like allow that to be like, oh yeah, who knows what's coming up today? You know? I find it so interesting that you come in with this feeling that there's some resistance in your system, because I don't feel that at all from you.
I think, I've been processing in the back of my head as we're sitting here. I think about this idea, with the mismatch thing, I'm thinking of those things, those toys that have the different shapes that you put in them, and you take the shapes. And I feel like what often how I discern and read things is, rather than looking directly at the thing energetically, I read the negative space around it. And when I'm looking at the mismatch thing, I'm seeing the things coming into my field actually through a bigger space than they need. So there's no contact of edges. So in feeling the not feeling the expected contact, the place my mind has gone is there something here that I'm constricted around that I'm not seeing, but I'm seeing actually there's so much space for those things to come in that I can't feel them, or I'm feeling them. They're contextualized in such a large space that they're very, very subtle. It's a very subtle sensation in the context of my system. So it's interesting to learn that going to suspecting resistance is where my mind goes, and that it just kind of glossed over the other possibility in terms of looking at why that might be the experience.
So you sound like you have some experience of like being in that absolute space, and pain will be a great teacher of that. So you have a sense of that capacity to expand completely beyond the body into the absolute, right? I'm sensing that you have Satori experiences and Kensho, like that kind of stuff. So how is your skill with walking that third line of the braid between the relative and the absolute, like being able to be fully embodied with the knowledge of that all around you.
That is definitely a skill that I'm learning. There are a few select relational contexts where that's really easy. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting the embodied experience of what that is. And I can feel it like slowly moving out into other areas. But that's definitely a skill development.
Well, that's the next level skill.
Yeah, it's really something.
Yeah, like once you have that insight and you know what reality is made of,
right?
Then being able to navigate this reality fluidly from within that boundless envelope,
right,
is bound to be clumsy at first, and sometimes that will feel. Sometimes that will feel like resistance or regression, but I don't get the sense from you that like you're in danger of losing that experience of the boundlessness at all. Like there's not going to be regression there. So like, oh man, that it's that transforming line again. It's taming the pet. Mm-hmm. It's taming the pet. It's understanding that the ego is not to be murdered.
Yeah.
But is just to be trained to poop outside. You know?
Perfect metaphor.
That it's not about like ego death and rebirth will come and come and come and come like the molting of a dragonfly. You'll have like 14 different moltings at least before maturity. Right. So, but where is your allowing with that, and how much are you forcing that evolution or forcing yourself out of the relative and back into the absolute when the relative becomes uncomfortable? Mm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, I don't, even if I'm engaging in the relative, I don't leave the absolute. But what has been my experience has been being in a pocket world of absoluteness, and then, like engaging in the relative world with the ego, with an unintegrated piece. Mm-hmm. And my inclination has been like, I just won't engage with other people, or I'll engage. I've spent much of my life taking care of kids, and engaging in a place where it's like, we're both in our little pocket worlds of absoluteness. So we can engage, we can have that relation, and we're both in the same thing, and there aren't these specific demands. So my inclination has been hermitage for sure. Yes.
My inclination was also humans under 5 and over 75, please.
Totally. Yep.
It's between 5 and 75 that people really become impossible, and it's just painful to watch how they get in their own way. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I can totally relate to this thing and just how much it can feel like. I mean, it felt so much like resistance to me for so long that I just became an alcoholic. Like I felt so alien and like just so out of place. Like my sense of belonging was so intimately rooted in the absolute that I didn't want to come back. Mm-hmm. Like I just wanted to hang out there all the time.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't really until I took the Bodhisattva vows that I was like, oh, that's what that's for. Mm-hmm. I need to tame this pet. And when I first went to Zen, there was like, well, wild is great, but meticulous and wild is more useful. Mm-hmm. So the value of form and being able to be intimate with the coalescence and deliquescence of form from moment to moment enables deep service.
Mm-hmm.
Service so deep that it can be intimidating to show up for because it's a massive responsibility. But that's exactly what your reading is saying.
Mm-hmm.
That there's no question about your field.
Mm-hmm.
This restlessness and discomfort with form, this wanting form to change faster than it's changing, wanting the molting and new skin to happen faster than it's happening. That's just mental resistance. That's just a matter of taming the pet.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm hearing too in what you're saying, I really feel this. I mean, right now I live on 300 acres of land in really the middle of nowhere.
Where? Middle of nowhere, where?
In Wisconsin.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Like I drive 45 miles to the co-op, to go grocery shopping, like that kind of distance. And I've really been feeling I've really never lived in a city proper, and I'm feeling like that's happening very soon, and really feeling this being in a place where I run into people on the street and am engaging with people and get to have that relational practice in a really real way. And what I'm hearing in what you're saying is I can really practice that in a pretty controlled environment right now and move with the jaggedness and the clumsiness in hermitage, but knowing that I'm moving into a different embodiment where that middle thread is the thread that I am walking. And I'm just seeing the potential and the aliveness of the simple but very real relational laboratory that I'm in right now as like what do they call that? I want to call it an echo chamber or a waiting room, but there's like something, like a little, it's not really a waiting room, but it is a
hall.
yeah, something like that. So I'm seeing that differently.
Well, because depending on the size of the city, you're going to want to be very clear in your own embodiment,
right,
about what's coming through you. I don't know what your trauma history is like, but if the difference between a trauma response and what's happening now, that's a key. It's a really important skill. And feeling the difference between what's coming from outside and what's coming from inside, and what's an inside response to what's happening outside. Just that energetic discernment is also what's happening between these two hexagrams. That's the space between these two hexagrams, is that inner hieros gamos, that energetic mastery of not only being aware of all the tones in all the scales that are running through you, but being able to play them. So like that transforming line is taming the pet, learning to play the scales, knowing what each note sounds like in your system and when it's coming from your song or when it's coming from someone else's.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And how to harmonize with any tone that's coming through, whether it's coming through your system from another place in your time, in one of your timelines,
right,
or coming from somewhere else in space. But that you have this physical space available to you now, and are enveloped in a broader ecology without a lot of the urban elements or town elements, to be able to really start with the natural world and feel the tone of each being that's around you now, and to develop that subtlety, like the blade of grass and the cypress tree, the birch tree and the daffodil. Like being able to be with each of those beings and feel the way they come through your system when you engage in that intimacy. Because the deeper you're able to go into that intimacy with all that is, the more fearless you will become in your service.
Mm-hmm.
Because you will know that you are held, and you will understand where you are in space and time in this particular moment, and have some agility with that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that makes a lot of sense.
But restlessness will really create trouble for you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that restlessness too has come from not knowing how to use that, like how to refine that skill, and feeling like the next context was necessary.
Mm.
And so, I that is very directly medicine and practice that meets that restlessness,
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that.
Yeah. You don't know yet.
Right.
Yeah. Coming. It's obviously all coming in for you. Yeah. Clearly.
Yeah. Quite.
No, it's all around you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm excited to go talk to the cows.
Yeah. Here, like, do you have any synesthesia tendencies at all?
I don't know. I've not attuned to it specifically.
Like moving through other senses, like hearing smells, or just like letting those sense gates all open, and letting beings run around the field with all the gates open.
I can do that.
Yeah, and seeing how the different ways they can be received once you swing those gates all the way open. Yeah. That could be fun.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it is. And doing that, that's easy to do sometimes with plant helpers.
Yeah.
But being able to do that from just your own skill.
Yeah.
That's what endures in service. And that's what helps bridge all of that stuff for others.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what frees people from suffering, when they realize that they're held always, right, and belonging always.
Right. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. Definitely going to play that game.
Great. I think it's the only game in town, frankly, especially at this particular spot in human history. It's the only game in town as I see it.
Yep.
If we don't all get on board with this game, we're going to have, ongoing catastrophe. So
yeah, a lot less fun than is available.
A lot less fun. A lot less fun.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have anything? Do you feel complete? Is there anything else?
No, I feel complete. I feel really like the space that I'm in is all of these possibilities and potentials for practice and engagement are evident and alive that weren't before.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you came here and I got to meet you. What a delight.
Same.
What an honor to read for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is, I don't know what to say, but thank you. So I'll just end with that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us for the Fuck Suffering podcast today. I'm Rei Hance, and you can find out about being a guest on the podcast, doing a one-on-one with me, or joining one of my Fuck Suffering practice groups at reihance.com, reihance.com. If you're interested in the book that I use for readings on this podcast, it's called Oracle of Emergence, an evolutionary I Ching, and it's available on Amazon. And if you would like to help us expand our reach, which would be lovely, rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. Yeah, we really can't fuck suffering until we trust suffering. And in a wild existential kink, we are all in that together.